One morning, Percy wasn't feeling well. His joints and tubings made him feel in pain, and he couldn't breathe properly. "Don't worry, Percy," said Sir Topham Hatt. "While you are away, I have arranged for an engine to come and help out on a branch line." The only engine available was Diesel. He oiled into the station to meet Sir Topham Hatt. Duck, who had not seen Diesel in a long time, saw him. "What's he doing here?" Duck said to himself. Diesel was sent away for bad behavior. The engines didn't trust him as he always caused confusion. "Percy is ill, and I need you to help out on Thomas's branch line for a while until he gets back," boomed Sir Topham Hatt. "Make no mistake, no nonsense," he added. "Of course, sir," he said, and buzzed away. Thomas was waiting impatiently for Diesel at the station. "I'm assuming you're here to help Toby out," quizzed Thomas. "Well, no tricks. Look pain." "What? Me? Tricks?" Diesel said smoothly. "I'm just here to help out you engines." "Good," replied Thomas. "I'll believe it when I see it." Diesel was soon at work, pushing and pulling freight cars in the yard for Toby to take to the quarry. He felt very flabbergasted about being accused of trickery. Later that night, Thomas and Toby spoke to Diesel to reiterate their expectations. "We will have no nonsense and lies from you," they both said sternly to Diesel. "Yes, Thomas. I understand, Thomas. Of course, Thomas," he said. But deep down, he felt frustrated and annoyed. The silly freight cars overheard the conversation and decided to cause trouble as they knew Diesel was not to be trusted by the other engines. They laughed and giggled when Diesel was trying to arrange them. "Yes, Thomas. I understand, Thomas. Of course, Thomas," they all giggled and sang. This made Diesel very cross, and when he was shunting the cars, he pushed them so hard they went through the bumpers and derailed. When Sir Topham Hatt heard the news, he was furious. "You are going back to the other railway as soon as I can arrange it," he thunderously said. Diesel was glad to be going home. He didn't want to stay if he knew he wasn't welcome. Next day, Daisy was on her way back to her shed when she felt something warm on her wheels. She stopped at the next station. "You're leaking oil," her driver said. "We need to get you back to this shed as soon as possible." Later, Thomas was on his journey back to the top station. Little did he know that the rails had oil on them, and when climbing up the hill, it made the train difficult to pull. "Help! Help!" he yelled. "I'm slipping!" The signalman diverted the train to a siding that led into a bank of earth for runaway trains. No one was hurt, but Clarabelle's back wheels were off the tracks. Diesel was waiting at the top station when the station master came up. "Thomas's train has come off the rails. We need your help," he said. "Serves him right," smirked Diesel, and chortled away. When Diesel came back down the line, he saw the situation and decided to put his feelings aside to help. Diesel and Thomas's crew worked hard to put sand on the rails and put sleepers under Clarabelle's wheels so she could get back on them. And in time, inch by inch, Clarabelle was safely back on the rails. "Thank you, Diesel," said Clarabelle. "Sir Topham had arrived." "Nice piece of work," he said. "You may have bad habits, but you've shown to put yourself out there for another in need. You are," Sir Topham Hatt concluded, "a very useful engine." The passengers all cheered for Diesel, and even Thomas thanked him. Diesel just smiled. One morning, Thomas was in the yard shunting for the other engines. Sir Topham Hatt needed help while Percy was away. It was hard work and the troublesome cars were not making the job any easier. "Come on, Thomas," they teased. "You forgot how to shunt cars?" "Shut up," he snapped. "I can't wait to go back to my branch line." Just then, Gordon popped into the yard to fill up on water. "Shunting cars," he smirked. "I'm glad Sir Topham Hatt doesn't allow such work to be given to me." Thomas lost patience. "If you stop gloating about how proud and important you are, then maybe this railway will run a lot smoother." Gordon just laughed. "Just make sure my train is ready, lazy wheels," and he steamed away. Next day, things were no better for Thomas. He brought a light load of cars to the yard at Edward Station for James to take to Vickerstown. Gordon thundered by. "Lazy wheels." Thomas, still annoyed, was just about to leave on his journey back when the signalman yelled out, "The points are jammed. We'll try and fix it before long." Thomas was fed up. "Great," he snapped. "I'll be late, and the other engines will never let me hear the end of this." "Don't worry," chuckled his driver. "You need the rest. Enjoy it." Thomas felt a bit better. One late morning, Gordon pulled into the yard at Roseworth after doing a short run. He needed to rest halfway before the evening train at the other end of the line. Bill and Ben came in. They were collecting some empty cars they needed for the charity play works. They saw Gordon resting and decided to tease him. "You know, Bill," said Ben, "it will be sort of odd to see Gordon pull the express backwards." "How odd?" Bill asked. "I heard Gordon pull the express backwards before." Gordon, taking no nonsense, responded, "Look, you two, that has only happened once, and besides, I'll be using the turntable to pull my train back down the line." The twins laughed. "Good luck on that," said Ben. "We heard the turntable was jammed, so you might be pulling the express back down the line again backwards." The two twins scampered off. But the twins weren't wrong. And when Gordon went back onto the turntable, the workman stopped him. "You can't use a turntable until further notice," the workman said. "Oh, bother," Gordon burst out. "I'm not moving until the turntable is fixed." And he didn't. James, gladly so, had to take the express. Sir Topham Hatt came to settle the issue. "If you cannot do your work, you shall stay here tonight." Stubbornly, Gordon did. And it wasn't until morning when the turntable was mended. But for Gordon, he slept outside, and when Thomas pulled into this yard, he let out a loud whistle. "Wake up, lazy wheels!" "Goodness gracious," Gordon shouted. "Is the turntable mended?" "Yes, Gordon," said Thomas. "Did you enjoy your night out?" Gordon felt embarrassed. "Ah, well," remarked Thomas. "I did hear James enjoy pulling the express while you were having a sleepover. Maybe next time you won't be so lazy?" Gordon said nothing and puffed away. It was a hot summer day and all the engines were working hard. Gordon was working hardest of them all. "Come on, you coaches," he puffed. "We're coming along, we're coming along, we're coming along," the coaches wailed. Gordon started to feel a bit weak. "I don't feel my usual self." "You're probably tired," said his driver. "Once you get to the station, you can get a rest." Gordon was later resting on a siding. The express had been so heavy and he felt more exhausted than usual. "I get so out of breath," he complained. "But nobody cares. They'll just say, I'll be alright after a rest." "Get to Topham Hatt to get you some tanks in a bunker," Thomas cheekily suggested. "You'll feel the new engine. We tank engines never get out of breath, you know." Gordon didn't have the energy to reply. The men worked hard on Gordon, but they couldn't make him feel better. "You need new tubes, Gordon," they said. "You need to go to the works and have them fitted." Gordon felt defeated, but secretly was relieved. So Topham Hatt arrived at the sheds that night. "While Gordon is away, I want Henry to take over the express duties until he gets back." Henry was delighted. Henry was excited and pulled the express dutifully all week. "It's a nice change," he said to himself. But Henry felt ill too. "I feel a little funny inside," he said. "Bother, just what I needed," Sir Topham Hatt said. "Gordon isn't due back until tomorrow, and the express is due out." "We have no spare engines except Thomas," said the inspector to Sir Topham Hatt, "but he can't pull the train on his own." "Could Percy help?" asked Sir Topham Hatt. The inspector pondered. "The two of them might manage with Duck helping as well," he suggested. "It's only as far as the works, and they are sure to have a spare engine there." So, the 3 tank engines were coupled together, Thomas nearest to the train, Duck in the middle, and Percy at the front. Then slowly, but surely, they started the heavy train. "Come on, come on, come on," fussed Percy importantly. We're doing it, puffed Duck. Pull harder, grumbled Thomas to the others. The train pulled out of the station. The engines couldn't go as fast as Gordon, but the passengers didn't mind. They knew the 3 engines were doing their best. Soon, the 3 began to feel tired. They struggled vehemently up the hill. But the string was beginning to tell. Eventually, the hill proved too much for Percy, and his driver blew his whistle and stopped the train. "We can't take you off, Percy," Thomas's driver said. "Do the best you can to take your brakes off. It's not far now." This made things harder for the other engines. We're nearly there, puffed Thomas and Duck together as they summoned one last brave effort. They were just passing the works when Duck found out he could go no further. Thomas could not pull the train on his own, and the cavalcade stopped a few yards short of the station platform. There, standing, watching from the work siding, was Gordon. He had seen everything. Sir Topham Hatt, who had been on the train, came out to thank the engines. He was proud of them. "You did very well to get so far," he said. "And now, you deserve a rest." A new engine took their place. As the tank engines moved wearily away, Gordon looked at Thomas and smiled. Then he took 3 deep breaths and winked. He didn't need to say anything. Thomas knew exactly what he meant. Mavis is a diesel engine who works at the Farquhar quarry. She tends to the freight cars all day, shunting and sorting them out for Toby to take. She often longs for longer trips as the quarry can get quite dull at times with no one to talk to but the cars. One day, she spoke to her driver. "I get so tired of staying here all the time," she fussed. "I would like to go down the line more often." "Well, you're in luck," said her driver. "Toby is busy at the junction, so you can take some cars down the line later today." Mavis soon set out with her train. The line followed a road most of its way. Mavis was very careful here, especially at the crossing where Thomas had an argument with the policeman a long time ago. Even though there are signs here, some trucks come around the corner much too fast and make Mavis nervous. "There will be an accident one day," her driver said. As she came down the line, she felt the cars surging against her. "Stop pushing!" she yelled out. "On! On!" yelled the freight cars. As she neared the level crossing, she saw a truck driving towards it. "They'll stop when they see us," she hoped. But the truck didn't, and driving much too fast, the truck's driver put on the brakes and the truck hit Mavis' car catcher. "Ouch!" cried Mavis. No one was hurt, but Mavis was badly damaged, and the truck's driver apologized for the accident. Repairs to Mavis took a long time, and Toby had more work than usual. He puffed up and down the quarry line with empty cars in the morning and full one later in the day. At the yard, Terrence the traction engine was helping shunt cars. He was talking to Percy. "Adaptable," he said. "Take my advice. Scrap your rails and get some nice caterpillars like me." "Pew," said Percy. "Me plow fields?" "With all this work I got now, I wouldn't mind a nice change," said Toby. Terrence and Toby just laughed. The weather changed and it was getting particularly colder, but Toby didn't mind as his fire kept him warm. One morning it was particularly cold. The ground froze solid, and Toby, feeling a lot lighter than usual, puffed towards the quarry. "Brrr," he shivered. Where Mavis had her accident, the line swelled up in between the ruts of the rails. When Toby was on his way up the line, Toby's wheels came clean off. "Oh dear, now what?" he said surprisingly. Toby's wheels was deep into the road pavement. Toby's wheels made ruts in the road, and his driver, quickly thinking, managed to get Toby back onto the rails as the ground was swollen enough for him to line back onto it. Soon enough, Toby felt the firmness of the rails beneath his wheels. Mavis returned home, and Sir Topham Hatt came to see the engines. "What's this I hear about you being a traction engine?" he asked. Toby blushed and told him about what Terrence said. Sir Topham Hatt laughed. "You stay in the rails and mind them and leave the roads to who or what they were made for you to." Mavis and Toby just smiled at each other.
Mavis and Toby are usually responsible for the work at the quarry at the end of Thomas's branch line. But often more than not, Mavis has stopped working there. One day, Mavis spoke to Toby. "You know, I would love to venture out more," she said. "I only seen a lot more of the island when I had to go to the works after my accident with that truck." Toby felt sorry and wanted to cheer Mavis up the best way he could. "You know, that reminds me of myself back on my old railway." "Oh, do tell me about it, Toby," Mavis eagerly said. "Well, it was before I had my old line. I used to work at the harbor on the mainland. My brothers and I worked tirelessly there. I've never really used my true strength until I had my own line to run on." Mavis looked on in admiration. "You were a harbor engine?" she quizzed. "Yes, but I can't do that sort of work now as I'm too old. But back then, I used to dash backwards and forwards without holiday," he added. "But one day, I did have the opportunity to go to the seaside. My driver and fireman came in very excited. There's a festival at a seaside village that happens each year, and the organizer think it would be a good idea to have a display of engines at the festival this time," said my driver. "And you," he said, "are to be the special guest." I went to the big station to be cleaned, painted, and polished. "I haven't seen you look this smart in years," my driver said. "I nearly didn't recognize you." We soon set out for the village. We stopped at a junction, and a train from the branch line arrived. The engine was younger than me, but he was dirty, his rods clanked, and steam leaked from everywhere. "That poor engine," I said. "Can I help pull his train to the next station?" The station master agreed. I was coupled up, and we set off. The engine was very friendly and we chatted. "Festival time is the best time of year," the other engine said. "Lots of extra trains and visitors. I expect you'll be able to stand in a long carriage siding." We soon came to the seaside station. The station master saw us, and he was surprised to see me. He stared, frowned, and shook his head and walked away. Next day, I woke up and saw the sea sparkling in the distance, and the birds made a loud swooping noise. "I wonder what they are," I pondered. "I must ask my driver and fireman when they'll come." But the crew came back looking glum. "It's all off, Toby," they said. "They said there's nowhere for you to stand." "Cheer up, old boy. They probably thought you were going to outsmart everyone else." Mavis felt a bit more glum. "So, you got all cleaned up for nothing?" she said. "Yeah, it seems so. But on the bright side, I ended up getting a rest, and I got to see the seaside, especially making a new friend. It was a nice holiday. One day," he said, "I'm sure you'll be able to venture out more, and maybe you'll see the seaside like I did." Mavis felt a lot more better, and Toby told him more stories about his old line. Thomas enjoys working on the Island of Sodor, especially on his branch line. He knows everyone and everyone knows him. Pulling his two coaches, Andy and Clarabelle, he wouldn't want to work anywhere else. One day, he was at Far West Station. He finished his morning run and was ready to travel back down the line. "Did you hear?" asked the conductor to Thomas's driver. "Hear what?" replied the driver. "The station master was burgled last night," said the conductor. Thomas was surprised, and his driver shook his head in disbelief. "I didn't know he had anything worth stealing," said the driver. "He won cups for gardening, and the scoundrels even had the cheek to pinch his car to take them away in." "Not that new one he was so proud of," said the driver. The conductor nodded. The signal dropped to show it was time to leave. "Burglarized, what a shame! Burglarized, what a shame!" said Tom to Annie and Clarabelle. Thomas wanted to do something to help, but he didn't know how. They were making great time and came out of the tunnel. Bertie the bus tooted to him. "Hello," said Bertie. "Hello," replied Thomas. The road met the tracks here, and Thomas pulled him to the station on time. Then, a flash of red caught Thomas's eye. Did you see that?" asked Thomas. "That car looked like station masters to me." Thomas soon became very eager. "Lots of cars look like that," explained the driver. "I'm sure it's nothing. And besides, we have to wait for the line to be clear before we can go." The signal dropped, and the driver opened the regulator. Thomas was determined to catch up to the car. "I'm sure it's station masters," he puffed to himself. They soon drew level, and two men were inside the car. They waved at Thomas. "That's a car, right?" said the fireman. "Those must be the thieves." "We can't stop them, and they'll be long gone before we can," he said. With quick thinking, the fireman wrote something on a piece of paper and put it in an empty lunch tin. When they came close to the next signal box, Thomas slowed down and whistled to get the signal's attention. When they were next to it, the fireman threw the box at the signalman and both yelled, "Police!" at the top of their voices. Down near the level crossing, the car approached the gates. But the gates were closed. The burglar tried to back the car, but Bertie the bus came up behind. The road was blocked. A policeman came out. He was riding on Bertie. "Well, what do we have here?" he said. Later, Thomas came back to Farquhar. The Topham Hatt and the station master were on the platform, so Topham Hatt spoke to Thomas's driver and fireman to thank them, and a crowd of people came around the station. Bertie also rode in with the policeman on board. The burglars were arrested, and the cups were found safely in the back of the car. So Topham Hatt made an announcement. "A long time ago, Thomas and his crew proved how valuable he was to my railway. Today, he has shown once again that he is a very useful engine." The crowd cheered, and Thomas felt very happy.